I'm the Reverend Bri-anne Swan, and this is Sermons from the East End for Tuesday, October 29th, 2024. Hello and welcome to this week's episode. We will be reflecting on the theme of mercy through the story of Jesus healing Bartimaeus on the streets of Jericho, as well as my own experience as spiritual advisor and friend to Ramiro Gonzales, who was killed by the state of Texas this past June. Mark chapter 10, verses 46 through 52. They came to Jericho. As he and his disciples and a large crowd were leaving Jericho, Bartimaeus, son of Timaeus, a blind beggar, was sitting by the roadside. When he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to shout out and say, "Jesus, son of David, have mercy on me." Many sternly ordered him to be quiet, but he cried out even more loudly, "Son of David, have mercy on me." Jesus stood still and said, "Call him here." And they called the blind man, saying to him, "Take heart, get up, he is calling you." And so throwing off his cloak, he sprang up and came to Jesus. Then Jesus said to him, "What do you want me to do for you?" The blind man said to him, "My teacher, let me see again." Jesus said to him, "Go, your faith has made you well." Immediately he regained his sight and followed him on the way. Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison. Lord, have mercy. In Jericho, dust clings to the feet of the passing crowd. Bartimaeus, sightless, sits at the edges, where silence and cries are often swallowed, lost in the noise of busyness, brushed aside. Jesus, son of David, have mercy on me. It's a cry sharp as desert thorns, insistent and persistent as breath. Who is this voice, this broken song at the roadside, rising against the tide of a crowd, telling him to hush, hush, hush? Isn't that how it is? The world teaches us where mercy belongs, who deserves it, who is worthy to receive it. But Bartimaeus knows what desperation strips away, that all he has left to ask for is mercy. Mercy, the word we use when justice feels too small. Mercy, the gift we give when punishment loses its point. Mercy, the crack in the stone heart letting the light seep through. And Jesus, who hears what others dismiss, stops. "What do you want me to do for you?" he asks. Like a healer, listening not to the illness, but to the humanity of the one before him, asking Bartimaeus to name the need himself. To ask for mercy is a brave thing. For Bartimaeus, it means daring to believe that even he, left on society's edge, is seen. Fully, deeply, worthily seen. It means believing that healing can be his, that his blindness doesn't define his belonging. Mercy. He could be asking for any of us. Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison. Lord, have mercy. I had a friend. He died this summer. Actually, to say he died is far too passive. He was killed. Ramiro was killed as I held him. As those who loved him watched. As those who hated him named the occasion as joyous. But before this, despite everything he had done, all the harm he'd wrought in his broken years, when violence and despair were his only language, thousands of us lifted our voices, pleading for mercy on Ramiro's behalf. In letters, in clemency petitions, we wrote and rewrote the reasons he should live, as if a life should ever need defending. But Texas, whose veins run red with retribution, answered only with silence and poison. In the end, they took him anyway. Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison. Lord, have mercy. As a child, Ramiro walked through shadows, a world edged in violence, where love was a language no one remembered, and loneliness settled like dust on his skin. Shaped by bruises and silences, Ramiro was a lost boy seeking light in a place where generations had been stripped of the ability to dream, of mercy, of healing, that life could be anything more. And then, as a prisoner, he lived bearing the weight of all he had done. Yet, even there, in the silence of the cells, he found pieces of himself again, patching a heart shattered so young. First, learning to speak softer words. Then, finding hands could be used for prayer, not pain. Finally, ears that heard God's call on his heart. There is mercy enough for all. There is mercy enough for you. Your faith has made you well. Rise and follow me. And in that barren, broken place, that quiet light began to grow. A faith unbound by steel or stone, leading toward a wholeness the world could not take away. Over the years, Ramiro's spirit began to ascend, unfolding in faith, hope, and love. A fragile testament to change. A testament that those in suits and the governor's pocket did not read in their Bibles. They saw fragments of Ramiro's past, but not the quiet mending of his spirit. They counted the harm he'd caused, not the harm that had shaped him. And with that balance, they felt justified. You see, they needed a scapegoat to carry the weight of a wounded society's unspoken shame for carving the chasm where so many are lost. Indifferent to the man he had become, to the mercy he'd found in prison walls, to the grace that rose from the ruins, to a man they only cared to know when somebody needed to pay. And Ramiro prayed to a God who knows what that's all about. Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison. Lord, have mercy. I just spent 2 hours with Ramiro in the holding cell, our voices rising together with the words of very old hymns, the only songs of praise we shared. Amazing Grace, Be Thou My Vision. Shall we gather at the river reverberated through the concrete and steel? He was sad. He was scared. But he knew where he was going. Ramiro's faith held a strength I could only reach for, and his words, though few, were only of love. For friends, family, for the family of Bridget Townsend, who had carried anger like a torch for 2 decades, begging for his death as a balm for their pain. And as we prayed, his voice softened, lifting up the prison staff in prayer, those who would soon strap him down. A prayer of mercy for those who bore the weight of his end. Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison. Lord, have mercy. I knew before walking into the execution chamber, Ramiro cruciform on the table, that of all of us standing there, witnessing his life stolen away, that Ramiro would be the most well. The warden, stiff with duty, was not well. For there is a cost to taking a life, a toll that settles in the bones. The witnesses, bound forever by what they saw, were not well, holding within them what could never be unseen, a homicide, a trauma, a loss so profound that it will never leave. The executioner. How could anyone well enough raise a hand to end a heartbeat? And I, merely standing, praying, was not well. For all I could do was sing this very Kyrie, asking for mercy, mercy, mercy. For every spirit held captive in that chamber, including my own. Lord, have mercy on me too. For I did nothing to stop it, stood silent as condemnation closed its grip on life. And yet Ramiro, bound, still, strangely, tragically, was the only one well, the only one whole. His faith a strange, steady light, his peace rising like prayer, that we the broken might one day understand. His last words on this earth were of love. And as the poison began its silent course, he turned to me and said, "I love you, Mana." And then he was taken. Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison. Lord, have mercy. Mercy. Mercy says, "Come in." Mercy opens what we try to close. Mercy refuses the final word of shame. Jesus' question echoes in this space. What do you want me to do for you? How many times, I wonder, had Bartimaeus raised his voice for mercy, cried out in the darkness for help, for love, for the touch that heals? How many times had he insisted, unseen, that he too was worth noticing, his voice choking in the dust before Jesus walked by? Do we dare hope that mercy might be for everyone? For those without home, food, friends, care, for those whose bodies bear the mark of both personal and systemic failings. That it stretches to the condemned and the convict, that mercy is perhaps our truest glimpse of God. Do we believe mercy might even be for us? In Bartimaeus' plea, in Jesus' reply, we glimpse the heart of the divine, a God whose mercy cannot be stilled, who hears through the crowd's indifference, who stops, who sees, who calls, "Come near." And today, as Ramiro prayed, as I prayed, Lord, have mercy. Whom might we hold in mercy's reach? And will we be bold enough to cry out? Will those who can grant both life and death at the stroke of a pen join in? Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on us all. Loving as Ramiro loved, insisting as Bartimaeus persisted, we pray for a world aching to be healed, for a justice shaped in God and mercy's name. Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison.
You prisoners in your cells, all you in private hells, Kyrie eleison. All you hungry and ignored, who thirst for something more, Kyrie eleison. You who feel so lost, but are afraid of being found. You who are in chains, but are afraid to live unbound. You children ripped and torn, battered, bruised and worn. Kyrie eleison. All who look hate in the face, locked in hate's embrace. Kyrie eleison. You who've given up and can't see anywhere but down. You who've lost all hope and think it's nowhere to be found. Kyrie eleison. Kyrie eleison. For all us lonely, needy people living in this world, spinning round and round and round, round and round and round. For all us lonely, broken people living in this world, spinning round and round and round, round and round and round. Lord, have mercy. Christ, have mercy. Kyrie eleison. Kyrie eleison. There is mercy enough. There is grace enough. There is love enough for all of us. There is mercy enough. There is grace enough. There is love enough for all of us. There is mercy enough. There is grace enough. There is love enough for all of us. There is mercy enough. There is grace enough. There is love enough for all of us. There is mercy enough. There is grace enough. There is love enough for all of us. There is mercy enough. There is grace enough. There is love enough for all of us. There is mercy enough. There is grace enough. There is love enough for all of us. There is mercy enough. There is grace enough. There is love enough for all of us. There is mercy enough. There is grace enough. There is love enough for all of us.
That was Lovely Needy People by Chicago-based band The Many. You can find The Many and purchase their music at www.themanyAreHere.com. East End United Regional Ministry is committed to supporting our neighbors throughout the East End of Toronto. We run a weekly food bank market out of our Glen Roads campus on Gerrard Street, as well as out of the cold from our Eastminster campus on Danforth Avenue. We actively support refugees and asylum seekers, and are public, intentional, and explicit of our affirmation and advocacy for two-spirited and LGBTQIA+ peoples. We gather for worship on-site and online Sunday mornings at our Eastminster campus, and Thursday evenings at our Glen Roads campus. We are a community working to figure out how to embody the words of Cornel West, who said, "Justice is what love looks like in public." We don't always get it right, but we are committed to working for progress even as we acknowledge that we are a work in progress. If any of this sounds interesting, we would love to meet you. Feel free to send me, Reverend Bri-anne, an email, bswan, B-S-W-A-N, @eastendunited.ca. I would love to connect over coffee, either in person or online. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. I am away for a few weeks, enjoying some vacation and some writing time, but I will be back soon. Until then, take care of yourselves and one another. East End United Regional Ministry is an affirming community of faith within the United Church of Canada. You can learn more about our community, including our many outreach programs, by going to www.eastendunited.ca.